Welcome back. The Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, Chuck Rettig, says his agency is ready to handle a third round of stimulus checks. If Congress approves President Biden's plan, it could happen during tax season. That's the busiest time of the year for the IRS. Danny Werfel's managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group, former acting commissioner of the IRS. Danny, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. I don't mean to imply that the IRS or any agency can't do two important things at once, but is there a burden that will fall on the agency if the stimulus payments come at the same time they're processing returns?
Absolutely. I mean, you also have to consider the fact that the IRS systems are getting older and older. There's a compelling need to modernize them. You know, the workforce has been shrinking as Commissioner Rettig has pointed out. So you have a perfect storm where you have the very big task of running through the tax season, which is, kind of a lot of moving pieces in accepting and processing hundreds of millions of returns, while at the same time taking on a role that was not intended when those systems were developed and when the people were trained. So it is a lot to juggle.
Some big numbers, some numbers that really struck me as interesting coming out of Commissioner Rettig's testimony, and Jory Heckman reporting about him on Federal News Network. 61,000 employees teleworking during the pandemic. You told me before we went on the air that you had 90,000 employees total working for you when you were there. That's 2/3 of the workforce working remotely. And I haven't heard any anecdotal stories about any kinds of problems with customer service at the IRS. I haven't heard any kinds of IT issues, even given the antiquated technology they have. What's that say to you about how the agency was able to pivot?
Well, it's always been a resilient agency. The culture of the organization is that everyone from the revenue agent all the way up to the commissioner's office is completely dedicated to making sure that the process runs well. I had a feeling when I was there that inspiration of like the postal worker, neither rain nor sleet. And I think there's a sense in the IRS that they have to figure things out and get things done, and it's a testament to their dedication to the mission. And so, like other government agencies, they're finding workarounds. Now, there are elements of the tax season. A lot of mail comes in. As much as the IRS has pushed for much more digital electronic formats, you still have mail coming in. And so, there'll be an increasing number of people that will have to be on the premises. Hopefully the timing works well with vaccines and other positive trends coming out of the COVID situation. But I would expect if there's an organization in government that will figure out a solution to make these train schedules work, it's the IRS.
Another number that Commissioner Rettig shared with the committee that you put in context with that 90,000 number was this. IRS has seen its workforce shrink by more than 33,000 employees over the past decade. They've gone from 120, they lost a third of the workforce essentially. Is that, am I on the right track there? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I saw it even when I was there. I mean, I was doing site visits to walk-in taxpayer assistance centers, and the lines were very long, like almost around the block. And the reality is because each of those individual booths where you go meet with someone, they were about a third filled with IRS employees because the others had retired or moved on, and there were hiring freezes that didn't allow the IRS to hire behind it. And the result is that the taxpayers who are looking for technical support to meet their tax obligations are harmed by this. So there really needs to be, and I think those conversations have started to shift in the right direction. It's one thing to want the IRS to run the tax system and the nation's tax system effectively. And you really have to align the right resources, the people and the tools and the technology. It's a whole other thing to now ask the IRS not only to run the tax system, but to concurrently help with the distribution of payments under the CARES Act and other COVID relief bills, which is terrific that we have an organization like the IRS that has the expertise and the comparative advantage to make payments to individuals. But in order to do both at the same time, we have to make sure that we're empowering and investing in the organization smartly. This doesn't mean making it bigger and more bureaucratic. It just means hiring the right people and giving them the right skill sets to carry out the very specific mission they need to carry out.
We have about a minute left, Danny. You're not just an expert on the IRS, you're an expert on government management in general. And to that hiring freeze point you made a moment ago, Jory Story says a hiring freeze from 2011 to 2018 has created significant workforce challenges. Is this the backside, the bad side of hiring freezes across government organizations broadly, that 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you see the negative effects?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where often a hiring freeze is necessary in a moment of an acute budget challenge, but they need to be lifted at points to make sure that you're bringing in the right people to close gaps. I mean, there's no reason to create unnecessarily a mission critical risk because you're sticking to a hiring freeze that's now out of date based on where we are with a budget. I mean, hiring freezes can come and go, but sustaining them for long periods of time, you really are just hurting the organization and hurting the mission. And really, it's an unforced error to sustain a hiring freeze for that long and create unnecessary risk in a mission critical function like the nation's tax system.
Danny Werfel, thanks very much as always.
Francis, my pleasure.